Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel, and I want to talk about eBay feedback today and how you can get eBay feedback removed and why eBay will or won't remove feedback in certain situations. I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, ProEcommercelister, your one-stop shop for listing services. Simply take photos of your inventory, upload them into our system in our mobile app or website, and we do the rest. Titles, descriptions, conditions, item specifics, return times, handling times, and shipping policies. You simply price your item and make them live on the platform. Contact ProEcommercelister below at www.proecommercelister.com or email us at proecommercelister@gmail.com for full instructions and pricing. And thank ProEcommercelister for being a sponsor of the Rockstarflipper YouTube channel. All right, yeah, so a story came out yesterday from Ina Steiner. She runs E-commerce Bites. You guys probably know her from the eBay harassment news story that she was stalked by eBay employees, but she also runs E-commerce Bites. It's awesome. Ina is an amazing writer, and she put out a story about eBay canceling the part of concierge customer service that will allow you to have feedback, negative feedbacks removed a certain amount of times per year. So if you're not familiar, let me give you the backstory. In 2017 at eBay Open, which I was at, and we got to, some of us got to speak on stage in front of the audience, they started a program for anybody who attended eBay Open that year, 2017 in Vegas, that was called concierge. So basically what happens when you call eBay's customer service number at the time, or when you would request a callback, you literally got directly to a special team who did almost anything you wanted within reason. Now, I'm not saying that people abused this or took advantage of it. Maybe somebody did, but it was just a really easy, convenient way for us to get customer service help from an American call center directly to the team immediately. So, for example, I had somebody who left me a negative feedback that year, later that year, or the next year, who was just downright nasty, and I could not get that feedback removed from regular customer service. I called concierge, and they removed it within seconds. It wasn't that I was taking advantage of it. This was a feedback that was absolutely did not belong on eBay's system. Well, they are getting rid of that perk. And now they wouldn't do it all the time for us, but they would do it every once in a while. Now, I only get like one negative a year out of thousands of transactions, so generally I don't have to worry about it. If you go on my account right now, which is linked below, you'll see I have 0 negatives. I have some neutrals which could possibly be removed, like it'll say neutral feedback and it'll just say good. They're not going to remove that, right? And so that's what I want to talk to you guys about, because there's a big misunderstanding in what eBay will and won't remove on feedback. And in fact, their own website in 2 different spots contradicts itself on what can and can't be removed. So I'll give you guys a couple of examples and then we'll go over to the website. Profanity and threats. Like if you're being racist or sexist or just attacking somebody for no reason or threatening, like I'm going to break your legs if you leave me this feedback or don't do, obviously that is almost to the level of law enforcement. That's not allowed. And if you use profanity like I hate you or whatever, that's not allowed. But let's go over to the website and show you what is and isn't allowed and what can be removed. Okay, so here we are on the eBay feedback policies page, and I want to read a couple of these pages to you, and you're going to see some contradictions all in itself of what is and isn't allowed. So while feedback is intended as an open forum, our guidelines and policies listed below are in place to ensure it's constructively and fairly used. Feedback extortion. Some people get this wrong. Buyers are not allowed to use threats of negative feedback or low detailed seller rating to get something that wasn't part of the original listing, and sellers can't demand positive feedback from a buyer. So as a seller, you can't ask the buyer to give you positive feedback. The buyer, feedback extortion is like if I say, give me $20 or I'm leaving you negative feedback, or give me a free necklace, or things like that. A lot of you guys get it mistaken where somebody comes into your thing and says, you better take a return on this item or I'm leaving negative feedback. That is borderline. That's gray area where, yes, eBay's going to probably remove that for feedback extortion because they're threatening to give you negative feedback unless you take a return. However, if somebody says, this item showed up broken, I opened a return request, I'm returning it, please help me to make this, resolve this correctly so that I don't have to leave a negative feedback, while probably not the best way to say it, that's not extortion. They're simply saying, please handle this, handle my return. They're not asking for anything they didn't get in the original listing, which is word for word what eBay says. They can't use the negative feedback threat to get something that wasn't a part of the original listing. Well, if you sent them a broken item and they're asking you to give them one that isn't broken or to take this as a return and refund, which they're entitled to because you item not as described, that, in my opinion, is not asking for anything I didn't buy originally. That's asking you to make the transaction right. However, as a buyer on eBay that buys a lot of things, I will never use the negative feedback phrase at all, even if I'm allowed to, if it is in line with eBay's policy, because most representatives will remove it for extortion, even though most of it probably is extortion, but some of it's not. Some of it's just buyers trying to get things made right. But there's a better way to say things. So careful about that. Feedback manipulation is where you try to get exchange feedback for increasing feedback scores, gaining eBay privileges, enhancing the reputation of the site, etc., etc. That is, of course, obvious. You can't manipulate it. So feedback misuse. This is a good one I want you guys to see. Any misuse of feedback isn't allowed. Feedback comments should match the positive or negative rating that was given in both the buyer and seller feedback. For example, a negative comment should not be left with a positive rating. So if somebody leaves you positive feedback, but they say this was a crap seller or crap item, that should be able to be removed. It's misuse of feedback. However, as you're going to see in a minute, there's contradiction on this in eBay's later pages. So we just saw that, right? Let's go to the next page. This is the feedback misuse policy explained. Leaving conflicting feedback in comments is not allowed. Feedback should only be related to the transaction. So, any misuse of feedback not allowed. Feedback comments should be consistent with the rating. Positive feedback should accompany a positive transaction, and negative should accompany a negative. For example, sellers must not leave buyers a negative comment with a positive transaction rating, and buyers must not leave sellers a negative comment with a positive transaction rating unless they contact the seller beforehand and the seller was not able to resolve the buyer's concern. Follow-up or reply comments must also match the rating and can't be used to change a rating. Feedback should only be related to the transaction. We do not allow expressing opinions on any political, religious, or social issues, any links or URLs or other content encouraging sales outside of eBay, any implied or explicit threats or intimidation, the publishing of any personally identifiable information, any inappropriate or offensive language, and any reference to investigations. Activity on eBay is required to follow all applicable laws, the rights, eBay user agreements, and eBay policy. So we can see that you're not supposed to leave contradictory comments and ratings, and we can see the obvious where you can't do religion or threats or offensive language or anything like that. If the activity doesn't meet these requirements, eBay may take action consistent with all applicable laws and eBay user agreement. We come over here to the seller performance and feedback policy. Now watch this. Pay attention close to this, right? As we scroll down, they're talking about how they measure their seller performance. This is more of like your metrics and your defects. What kinds of defects can be removed? They can remove defects in certain situations, including where we find the buyer was at fault. If the problem was caused by an eBay site issue, a glitch, hello, or if there's an issue outside of your control, like shipping service delays, extreme weather, etc. Seller performance and feedback policy. So most sales go smoothly. Occasionally there's an issue with a transaction. Seller performance standards focus on what matters most to buyers, which is there are three metrics: the defect, the late shipment, and cases closed. We know that. Can defects, late shipments, or feedback be appealed? Automatic adjustments will happen daily, but please allow 72 hours. As you scroll down, we automatically remove defects and adjust your late shipment rate and remove feedback when the buyer didn't pay for your order and you canceled it because the buyer hasn't paid as the reason after 4 days. The defect, feedback, or late shipment was the direct result of eBay's site issue or program error, so a glitch. In other words, if you have to cancel an order because eBay relisted an item that you sold a year ago, that's on eBay. They should remove it. The delivery estimate shown in the listing was shortened. We take action against the buyer for violating abusive buyer policies. We take action in money-back guarantee cases. We instruct you to hold a shipment. Or we can determine through valid tracking that the defect, feedback, or late shipment was the direct result of systemic delays in the shipping or communication. Not eligible for removal. We may remove a feedback comment that violates eBay's policy, such as containing profanity or links, but the feedback rating or any defects aren't necessarily removed. So they can remove the comment, but not the negative. So if somebody leaves you a negative comment that says, "You're an effing piece of S," They might remove the comment, but you're still getting the negative. Fabulous. How about removing the buyer? How about that, eBay? Late shipment appeals. So manual review. There's circumstances where the defect, the feedback, or the late shipment can be manually reviewed. Must take place within 90 days of the transaction. The feedback comment contained inappropriate content such as profanity as described in our member-to-member contact policy. While inappropriate comments will be removed, the rating will remain. Okay? Let's go over here to the member-to-member contact policy. This is my favorite part, right? Okay. We don't allow members to make offers to buy and sell outside of eBay, to send spam, to threaten others, or use profanity or hate speech, exchange personal information, including phone numbers and emails, or send viruses, malicious code, etc. Right? eBay does monitor your messages, just in case you're wondering. Does eBay share personal emails? We don't in the majority of things. Somebody who's threatening you, if you receive a threat, report it to us immediately. We'll look into it, determine what account or action is needed, including suspending the member's account. But we're going to leave your negative feedback up. Don't worry about that. A member left feedback which I don't think is accurate or fair. Here we go. This is a good one. Can I have it removed? On request, we may remove some kinds of feedback if it contains hate speech or profanities. However, while we discourage rude and accusatory comments, we don't remove them if they're related to the transaction. So somebody can be rude to you, not going to remove the transaction. We would recommend getting in touch with the member and asking them to revise their feedback, right? Okay. Member-to-member policy overview. So here we go. Let's just scroll down here. Activity, action, please remember, what are the guidelines? Spam, right? We don't allow spam outside. Threats, okay? We don't tolerate threats such as physical. If I don't hear from you by tomorrow, come to your house and break your legs. Profanity and hate speech, obviously we know that. Here's feedback comments containing inappropriate content. So feedback that contains personally identifiable information, such as your address or your phone number, something like that, they're not going to allow that, right? Feedback not related to a sale, including a comment, reply, or follow-up related to a different sale. So that's removable. Feedback containing political, religious, social commentary, we know that. Feedback containing language that is profane, vulgar, obscene, or racist, as well as comments containing adult material or physical threats. Negative feedback comments that directly contradict a positive rating when the comment is posted by the seller. This type of contradictory comment is not removable when left by the buyer. But over here, we see that at the top, right here, right? Where is it? Where's that one we just saw just a second ago, right? Leaving conflicting feedback in comments is not allowed. Feedback should only be related to the transaction. Leaving conflicting feedback in comments is not allowed. Here it is. Sellers must not leave buyers a negative comment with positive transaction. Buyers must not leave seller a negative comment with positive transaction. But right over here on the member-to-member contact, we see not removable, right? This says right here, negative feedback comments that directly contradict a positive rating is removable. That's removable. It says it right here, negative feedback comments that directly contradict. When the comment is posted by the seller, this type of contradictory comment is not removable when left by the buyer. So when our buyer leaves us a contradictory comment, they're not going to remove it. eBay, what the hell? Anyways, feedback containing links or promotional language, feedback that includes reference to third-party investigations. The not removable one, feedback comments containing accusatory language such as fraud, liar, cheater, scam artist, or con man. Although it's strongly discouraged, this isn't allowed to be removed. Feedback containing links to URLs or ebay.com, those are allowed as well. Of course they are. So why do we have this policy? Feedback is really, I don't know. You guys tell me in the comment section. I don't even want to keep going on this. I'll link these below. I'll link my links to the news article and to List Perfectly, the best listing service on the planet. I do not work for them. I'm a paid spokesman for List Perfectly because they are the best listing and cross-listing service. Down below, use the link Rockstar LP, save 30%, sign up for List Perfectly or upgrade your account today, and thank them for sponsoring this video and for sponsoring my channel. Appreciate you guys at List Perfectly. Anyways, how do you feel about feedback? Let me know down in the comments section. Leave it below, hit the like button, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, do all that fancy stuff. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.